Okay. We're back for yet another episode with a very, very, very good friend of mine, Rob Long. Pretty much everybody out there knows who Rob Long is. Of course, he's the morning show host on 105.7 The Fan. I believe the name of the show is The Big Bad Morning Show, correct, Rob?
Yes, sir.
And of course, we're going to talk sports and we're going to talk about work. But we're going to get to know Rob, the man, throughout the course of this podcast. And I've been fortunate enough to get to know Rob over the past decade or so. And hopefully, next time you guys listen to him in the morning, you'll understand what a special man he is as well. So, Rob, before we even start, I had to wear my UNC shirt today.
I know.
Because I don't think there's a person alive that gives me a harder time about my Tar Heels than you. And I also brought back up, and a lot of you people that watch this on YouTube or Facebook might recognize, the Funko Pops in the background, but I had to bring the great Michael Jordan in his UNC outfit. This is my evil eye of sorts for Rob today, to keep the UNC slander to a minimum, okay?
And to let you know, this is not Duke blue, because John will tell you I'm not a Duke fan. This is Mount Carmel blue.
Well, let's get right into it, Rob. You are a Mount Carmel basketball coach, right?
Yes.
So tell us about the program, the ladies you're coaching, and the funding, or the lack of funding, rather, why you work so hard.
Man, I coached college basketball for 13 years. One year as an assistant, 12 as a head coach. Coached my team into the NCAA tournament. Nationally ranked in JUCO a couple of years. And my last year in junior college was my daughter's her freshman year in high school. And they played 21 games, I believe, that year. And I made it to 3 or 4. And at that point, radio was really where my bread was buttered financially. And my daughter and I had a bond, and basketball was our common bond. And I felt like I could not allow her to play with me seeing just a handful of games. So I stepped down, thinking that with we won like 70% of the games in college. I figured, there'll be something that opens up JUCO or D3 around the area. I could go back when she graduates. And a couple of days after I stepped down, Mike Norton, who was the athletic director at Mount Carmel, who was a good friend of mine, put together this notion of me possibly coaching there. Well, one thing led to another, and one of the agreements that we had was if I took over, we would leave the C conference after 1 year, because I didn't want to coach in the C conference.
MIAA.
IAAM for the girls. It's IAAM.
Okay, and there's an A,
A,
a
B,
B,
and C.
and a C similar to the men's
Yes.
setup, I guess?
Yes.
Okay.
And the girls were in the C. I said, I can't really recruit in the C, so let's play 1 year in the C and move up to the B. And I knew we'd get out with brains bashed in when we first moved to the B. First 2 years in the B, we won a combined 5 games in a regular season. First 2 years.
And what year was that?
That was, 15, 16, and 16, 17.
All right, so this is fairly recent.
Right. I just completed my 5th year there.
Okay.
And we won a combined 5 games. But something started changing after that second year in the B, which is my 3rd year overall. We actually were a 12 seed going into the playoffs, and we beat a 5. And we had the 3 seed on the ropes at their place in overtime and lost by 3. My daughter actually hit a 3. This is her senior year. She hit a 3 after the buzzer went off that would have tied the game up and sent us in a double overtime. But they said she got the shot off after the fact, and I think she did get it off after the fact. But then the next 2 years, John, including this past year, we went from winning a combined 5 conference games to only losing 3. And this year, going into the B Conference Championship game before losing, we were down 17 in the third quarter, ended up taking a lead with less than 2 minutes left in the game, and ultimately lost by, I think, 4 points. I love it. I thought for sure that once Stephanie graduated, I would go back to the college ranks, but you couldn't get me to go back to college basketball. I'm going to say that right now, because the speculation is always, this will be the year he goes back. I'm not going back. You can't get me to go back.
You take these young ladies to New York.
Yes.
Where else?
We've been to Charleston, South Carolina for a tournament, New York, Virginia. We've been someplace else I can't think of. Oh, my gosh. Oh, New Jersey.
Okay.
So we've been all over the East Coast, Southeast and Northeast. And as you know, the school doesn't pay for that. And I don't say that to throw the school under the bus. I don't expect them to pay for it.
Well, a lot of people actually don't know that the
Okay.
school doesn't pay for that. It's assumed that, hey, private school, they pay for the kids
Yeah.
to go everywhere. Like I know when we went to Princeton relays or Penn relays, for example, Loyola wouldn't, they would pay for that, and they
Hmm.
would pay for our hotel rooms and everything. So talk about how hard you have to work
Yeah.
to go to these places to create these experiences for these young ladies that, no doubt, carry them through the rest of their
Oh,
lives.
absolutely. Yeah. Well, Mount Carmel just doesn't have that kind of budget. It's a great school. I love it. Both of my kids graduated from there, but they don't have that kind of budget. So I hustle my ass off. It's a 12-month-a-year hustle to stay on top of that because not only do we send them, we take them places, but we also provide financial assistance because we get a lot of kids who can't afford.
Yep.
Mount Carmel's only like 14 grand, but we get kids who can't afford that.
Right.
So it's a 12-month-a-year hustle to really try to raise money. You allow us to do fundraisers at Jimmy's. We've done tailgate fundraisers with
Happy
you all,
hours.
happy hours, and we do that different places. And we try to really raise money. There's some athletes around the area that every now and then will give us some money, and I know they'll be embarrassed if I said their names, Torrey Smith, but they've given us some money. I mean, they have because when you give it to a Catholic school, it's a tax write-off, but I don't think they give it for that reason because many of them have never asked for the tax ID. You can't get the tax write-off if you don't get the tax ID number. So it's a constant hustle to keep it going because ultimately you want to give that experience to the kids. But John, on the flip side, I'm a competitor. I make no bones about it. I've told you before.
Yeah.
I want to be the best.
You want to be the UConn of Baltimore High
Why
School.
not? Why not?
Why not?
You know
I'm
what I mean?
with
If
you,
you're
man.
gonna do it right. Don't just half-ass it. If
Love
you're
it.
gonna do it, be the best at it. And right now, St. Francis is at the top of the mountain, and the coach there is Jerome Shelton. And Shelton will tell you every chance I get to tell him, dude, I'm coming after you. I mean, I know you're there now, but I'm coming after you, and I won't quit until I get there. So it's just, and when we send kids to college, I just completed my 5th year there. Right now, we have 5 girls playing college basketball. 4 of them start. I had 5 seniors this year. We're going to get our first Division II athlete out of the program. Shanice Alexander, I can't announce where she's going, but everybody knows she's going to D2 because all of her offers are D2. I know where she's going, but she doesn't want me to say that yet until we get over this pandemic, and she wants to announce it at school. But she's going to be our first D2 player out of the program. But out of those 5 players, 3 going Division III, 1's going NAIA, and Shanice is going D2. So all 5 of my seniors will be playing college basketball next year, which means next year we'll have 10 college basketball players after 5 years of the program. And I can almost guarantee that out of that 10, we'll probably have about 7 starters.
And more importantly, I'm assuming that a lot of these young ladies are getting scholarship offers to these colleges. So
Yes.
you're really helping their parents out.
Yes, absolutely. No one pays full price. The division, you know how Division III is. If you're smart, they can say, we don't give basketball scholarships, wink, wink.
Yeah.
But if your GPA and your SAT scores are higher, they can justify giving you more money to come play.
Sure.
That's just how it is. I coach D3. That's just how it is.
And being around the program, I see, how much the parents appreciate the work that you put in, and it really is, everybody preaches family, but you live it.
We're family.
So, kudos to you on that.
Thank you very much. We have great parents. We are
yeah.
family, and our team GPA is over 3.0. At one point, it was 3.5. So we get smart kids. It's not just, the reason why these kids can justify paying so little money to Division III is because their GPAs are so high. And on top of that, they're great basketball players.
Mm-hmm.
So it really does allow me to keep my sanity. I've said before publicly, it's no. I've suffered with depression before. The winter months are tougher for me. Basketball gets me through because it gives me something to look forward to and fight for every day. So it's not just me helping them.
Mm-hmm.
They also help me because I have to be accountable. I can't get down. I have to keep going. Every day I got to show up ready to go because these young ladies expect me to show up ready to go. So that helps me, keep my wits about me as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I love hearing that. Rob, let's talk about your family life. Your son, Robbie, had his first legal drink at Jimmy's Famous Seafood on his 21st birthday.
21st birthday.
Yeah. Just for the people that don't know the story, enlighten everybody and tell them, the challenges that you face as a father.
Robbie is my firstborn. It's Robbie. Stephanie is she's 19 years old. That's my daughter. It's my baby girl. But Robbie, we started noticing some changes in him when he was 3 years old, and it got worse and worse, and people really didn't know what was going on with him. And so we finally took him to the doctor, and they did some tests on him, and they said he was diagnosed with autism. And they put us on a waiting list to get into certain places, and we called. That's when I first started with WNST, and I was in the Orioles locker room, and I asked BJ Surhoff for some advice, and BJ pulled some strings and got us into Kennedy Creek and some other places.
Tar Heel.
Tar Heel, yes,
BJ
he is.
Surhoff.
So he helped us, and he really gave us a lot of good advice. And my son couldn't pick a pen off the floor with his off the ground, the table with his 2 fingers, and they helped him with fine motor skills. They helped him with speech, and you hear Robbie. Robbie will talk to you.
Yeah.
He wouldn't before, and
Well, actually, even my fiance is a speech pathologist at Kennedy Creek.
right,
So she's working.
and that's where she went. Yeah, so that's where he went. So they really helped him along the way, and I think it was a perfect storm of parents also, because my wife, who's a preschool teacher, is a nurturer. It's all right, Robbie, it's all right. And you know me, I'm a foot in your ass guy.
Yeah.
So he had the perfect balance of my wife telling him it's okay, and me saying, no, this is what we're gonna do. I get it as a challenge, and she was there to remind me of that. But I was there to remind her of challenge accepted. You know what I mean? This is not, because initially I'm not gonna lie to you. Initially, it was a death sentence for me. My son is autistic. I mean, we're not gonna learn to drive together. Is he gonna get married? He's gonna give me grandkids. It was all about me. It was. John, I'm not proud to say that. At first, it was, and then human beings are resilient. So that resiliency kicked in, and like, okay, now it's about Rob. What do we do for Robbie? And he went through public school. He went to Hebville Elementary. Shout out to Hebville, because they are angels. They are awesome.
Where's this school?
Hebville Elementary is in the Milford Mill area. He went there because my wife was going to college full time at the time. She wanted to be a teacher. And my dad lives right around the corner from Hebville. And it's funny because I'm the only Long out of the sibling Longs who didn't go to Hebville. My brothers and my sister went to Hebville, and then my kids started going to Hebville. So when some of the older teachers noticed the last name, they were like, Long, are you? And so it was perfect for them. They're angels. They were perfect for Robbie. It was a great foundation for him. Then he went to a Baltimore County middle school in that area, who I won't name, and they were horrible. He started having seizures. He was being bullied by not only kids but teachers. By then we were living in Essex, so we put him in Deep Creek Middle School. And guess who was a gym teacher at Deep Creek Middle School at the time? Jamie Rollo.
Oh, wow. Well, John
Rollo's brother.
Yesterday.
So that was like when Rollo put his arm around him, everybody put his arm. That was like, the stamp. And he had some great teachers there as well. So it picked up. That 1 year gap was bad for him. But I look back on it, John, having that year of rejection was good for him now, because he saw that not everybody's going to be in your camp. Everybody was in your camp at Hebville. Then you had that 1 year where you realized you had some demons out there. You had some people out there that didn't have your best interests at heart. So you learned a hard lesson. So now we take him back to Deep Creek, and now he has these people around. So now he can appreciate this. This is not how it's always going to be, son. Now you appreciate it. And he was playing rec ball and all, and he was basically told by Baltimore County that he couldn't try out for varsity sports in high school because of his IEP. Instead of taking it to court and all of that, what can we do to remedy this? Well, Stephanie was already in middle school at Mount Carmel, and once again, I talked to Mike Norton, and this is before I started coaching there. I said, "Look, Mike, could you help me out find a private school that maybe my son could at least try out?" Because we didn't want to send him to a quote-unquote special school. We knew after he graduated that there were some things that we had to do, but we wanted him to have the typical high school experience, man. I mean, prom and making friends and playing sports and going to sporting events. And Mike circled back about a week ago, said he was offended because he's a private school, and why didn't I ask him? So he went through all the tests. He had to do the verbal test because that's on his IEP, and he got into Mount Carmel, and he made the football team. His first tackle was against the Baltimore County Public School. It was a tackle for a loss.
Well, that felt good.
That felt real good. He picked up wrestling. He had never wrestled before. A guy named Tim Schoen, who was unbelievable for Robbie. It was great to have Tim in his life for 4 years. Tim and his wife are awesome. He started wrestling. And he played baseball for Norton. And he had a great his first homecoming dance. This is a great story, John. It rained. They had the homecoming dance Friday. The game was Saturday, so it was raining a monsoon. So a lot of people didn't want to hold the chains. So Norton comes over to me. Hey, can you hold the chains for me with a couple of the girls? So I'm sitting there with teenage girls holding chains for a game, and one of the girls says to me, "Are you Robbie's dad?" I said, "Yeah." "Oh, he was awesome at the party last night." So I'm starting to ask around, like, well, what did Robbie do at the party? And it's a typical way the boys didn't want to dance with the girls. They're standing on this side, girls standing on this side. Robbie's like, screw that. He got in the middle of the floor, start dancing. The girls start circling him, dancing with him. So the principal, Mr. Ashby, his son was a freshman with Robbie. And he said he told his son, he told Chris, look, you're both a freshman. Whatever Robbie's doing, he's doing it right. You may want to hang with him. So he had a blast, and he went on to wrestle. And a year after he graduated, and you know how tough MIAA wrestling is, because of the heart he demonstrated and the character he demonstrated, he got nominated for National Wrestling Hall of Fame, the Medal of Courage. And to me, just being nominated was a great honor. I thought there was no chance he would get this, John. None. So my wife and I were just celebrating the fact that he got nominated. So one round passed, and he's still in it. I'm like, okay, all right, this is cool. So finally they called and said, look, Mr. Long, could you write up whatever we had to write up for Robbie, because he's probably going to get into this thing. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. There's no way. So we got the phone call. He was in the Maryland chapter of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame, and we had to go to the Naval Academy to get accepted. And a lot of the coaches, including Maryland's wrestling coach, who was there, came up to him and really congratulated him, because they understood the National Wrestling Hall of Fame Medal of Courage is not something given out every year. I mean, you really got to earn this. They really have to recognize.
So it's not like a typical Hall of Fame class where every year we have new inductees, right?
They have new inductees in the Hall of Fame. But the Medal of Courage is not something they give out every year. They can give it out every year. They just don't have, every year have someone that they want to give it to. So it was truly an honor. So we're going to make it out to Oklahoma City to go out.
Oh, so this is now.
Oh yeah, he's in now. So we're gonna make it out to Oklahoma City and see where he's inducted at nationally. But it was just he had a hell of a ride.
Yeah.
And now what we're doing is he has a private tutor, teaching him reading and all those other things. The things that we knew we were gonna have to circle back on. But from 14 to 18, he experienced what every high school age kid should experience, and that to my wife and I was very important.
That's awesome. You just for somebody that literally gets paid to talk, I don't think I've ever seen you talk that much. Seeing that joy on your face, I just sit back and watching this. It's freaking awesome.
Yeah, that's my guy. That's my guy.
Your hero.
My superhero.
Yeah, so you're always putting that on Facebook.
Yeah.
Let's talk about work a little bit. You mentioned WNST a little bit ago. I think that's around the time we and you first met.
Yep.
They had layoffs at the time. Forget what the reasons were. I believe not selling enough advertising was what they put out there. Take us back to, I guess, that would be the lowest point in your professional career. What it was like for you. I'm sure it was scary. Anytime somebody gets fired, which a lot of people are unfortunately going through right now, it's scary. Talk about how you bounce back and give the people listening and watching right now some motivation to go forward.
Well, here's how it really happened for me at NSD. To give you the full story, I was given a show in, was it 04? I was given a show and did pretty good on air. And one day we had Free the Birds 2. You remember Free the Birds? And we had Free the Birds 2. And Free the Birds 2 was supposed to be all about the Orioles going to screw up signing Matt Wieters. And they wanted to do a Free the Birds 2 for that. I participated in Free the Birds 1. I didn't want to do Free the Birds 2 because I felt like, number one, the first one, we got the message across. The second one, maybe it's overkill. We're kind of making enemies here with the one of two major teams in the city. And I was actually given the option that if I want to do it, don't do it. But because one of the other employees and I got into it verbally, I got fired. I got fired. The day later, I guess that termination didn't work out. The day later, they brought me back. I missed one show, and I made up my mind that that John, the next time I left NST would be on my terms.
Right.
So Fox 1370, I don't know if you remember that station.
AM.
AM.
Yes.
They started up, and I left NST to go there. So I kind of get left NST before they start laying people off.
Okay.
And I did get laid off, though. 2 years later at Fox 1370, I was, my daughter was playing an AAU national championship game in Virginia Beach. And I got a call saying that they were changing formats 1370, and I was out of a job. Well, I'd already built a relationship with Dave Labrosi at the time, who was at 105.7 The Fan, because I think The Fan hadn't even been FM for 2 years at the time. And Dave called me. I'm like, man, how does he know already? Because I didn't know it made it to the DCR TV website. And Dave called me because Dave and I had talked back and forth about me possibly going to The Fan. So this was perfect time. My contract was shredded. I had no stipulations in my contract where I couldn't do radio here in Baltimore because they got rid of me. The station changed formats. So, so there was a time there where when I first got that phone call to the next day, I heard Labrosi. I wasn't making a lot of money in radio at the time. So I didn't have a whole lot of money saved up. They didn't really offer me a big severance pay. It was tough. And I went to 105.7 The Fan in August of 2011, and I went as a part-timer. And it's a little bit of money I was making before. Now you're part-time, and to credit to Labrosi, he gave me as many hours as he could. He gave me pregame, postgame. He gave me a lot of hours. But when the first paycheck came, man, my wife and I were looking at one another like, I can't make it. And I remember going to Labrosi saying, I can't do this. Got to find something else to do. And he promised me, he said, let me get you through the year. Get me through the year. At the beginning of the year, we'll give you a full-time contract. So, John, can you imagine having a wife and 2 kids, one special needs kid, and I had my daughter who was in middle school now at Mount Carmel. I had a tuition to pay, and I'm going check to check, and what I owed versus what I was bringing in just didn't add up. What I owed was twice as much as what I was bringing in. So it took a lot of faith for me to say, I'm going to go through August, September, October, November, and December like this, and knowing that there's something on the other side. And there was 2 or 3 times where I'm like, screw this. I can go and deliver pizza. There's so many other things that I can do. I make a little bit more money than that.
Right.
Which will tell you how much money I was making in radio at the time. And it was dark. I'm not going to lie to you. I think I got 2 eviction notices during that time because we were renting. I was getting cut off notices at the time.
Yeah.
That's how dark it was. And I wasn't paying my daughter's tuition on time. I remember going into Miss Weber's office at Mount Carmel, and she said, look, we're going to work with you. We understand what's going on. We're going to work with you. And, oh, by the way, on top of that, I'm coaching college basketball at CCBC Dundalk, which everybody knows is a stipend. You don't make a lot of money doing that.
Right.
So there were some dark times. In December, like I would say right before Christmas, because, I'm still losing faith here. I'm like, this new contract's supposed to start January 1. I haven't gotten an offer yet. And we roll around. I go into Dave Labrosi's office, and I'd been to his office a lot, so I didn't think this was contract time. And he smiles and puts something in front of me in a folder, and I'm looking at him thinking to myself, no way, there's no way. So I'm opening up this contract, and I'm thinking to myself, this is good. This is a good thing. If I can make what I was making before, I'm good. I'm thinking I'm gonna at least make that. And John, it was twice the pay of the station that I just left. It was twice the pay. So if you think you can't make up for it, not only was I going to be able to pay those bills late, but now I'm getting twice the pay. I can pay the bills and catch up. And the Fan for me has been a blessing, man. Not only has it been great because I work with great people. I work with the former NFL GM, former police commissioner. I work with some people, but and it's giving me a bigger audience. That's a blowtorch. But also, I can't lie to you, man. It's giving me an opportunity to take care of my family in a way that if I would have told you in high school this is the things that I wanted to do, I would have thought that I had to either hit the lottery or be a pro ball player. You know what I mean? Because back then that's what they were making back then.
Right.
But they've really given me an opportunity to take care of my family on another level that I never dreamed I would have. Doing radio, John.
So from NST to Fox to now 105.7 The Fan, I guess the moral of the story is, number one, you bet on yourself and you won.
Oh yeah.
And the message for everybody out there that's probably going through this right now, unemployment's at an all-time high, is just keep the faith and
Keep grinding. Keep grinding. And you said it. You gotta believe in yourself, man. I mean, I can't tell you how many dark times I had where I just didn't think John, there was a time when I was working at NST. I worked at NSD. My buddy had a group home. I worked overnights there. You know who I relieved at that group home working 12 to 8? Bino Ransom.
wow.
He was he was between jobs.
Just our guest.
He would work 4 to 12. I would come in at 12 to relieve Bino Ransom.
So all our guests so far, I mean, people see them here.
Yeah.
And they love hearing what they're doing now, but every story's got a journey.
Exactly.
And those journeys seldomly are all sunshine and rainbows.
And so I would relieve Bino, and I was working NSD, working for him, and working weekends at Catholic Charities just to make ends meet. That's all. It was just it wasn't to live lavishly. You know, I had a hoopty I was driving, and my wife had a hoopty minivan she was driving, so I wasn't living lavishly. But it was all just to make ends meet. And like you, just, if I could go back from the beginning, keep in mind, my kids were born down south. I'm from Baltimore, but I moved to South Carolina. I met my wife in South Carolina. I moved back home without a job. I didn't have a job when I moved back home. I don't know why I moved back home at the time, and then a couple of years later, my son was diagnosed with autism, and I believe in divine intervention. And when he was diagnosed with autism, it all came full circle to me. I'm like, okay, well, where would you want to be with a kid with autism? What better place is there to be?
Baltimore. Yeah. I think a lot of us don't realize the great facilities we do have around us. Yeah. Until we need them.
Until you need them. And I'm a guy that believes in divine intervention. I came to Baltimore without a plan. I wouldn't. You know me. I would never go someplace without a plan.
Sure.
My wife followed me here. Not being from here without a plan. You know, my wife, she would never do that. Why did we do that? We didn't know until they diagnosed our son with autism. We said, okay, all right, makes sense now. It didn't make sense at the time. We just did it.
So let's talk about 105.7 and the morning show that you have going on right now. It's a 3-man show, which is very unorthodox by national measures, right? People say the 2-man booth is the way to go. Just talk about the challenges. Jerry, of course, his gimmick, and it is a gimmick, is just to be, the thorn in everybody's side,
Right.
as we saw with the Bills Mafia fight. Ed comes from a police background, so you're kind of the sports guy here, right? And you got to keep everything together. Talk about how hard that is, and now we have to do a show about sports with no sports.
Oh, now that's the.
So how hard is it going to work every day for you right now? Not hard, and people don't understand that how tough I have it.
Challenging.
But yes.
Yeah, not
that's a
hard,
better
but
word.
challenging.
Yeah, thank you.
When I first got to the morning show, first of all, it was just Ed and I. And they started talking about putting Jerry in and changing the name of the show. And I'm like, I'm not going to lie to you, it was a little threat there. I'm like, what's going on here? I mean, really, what's really going on? And Jerry got there, and there was some pushback from myself. I don't know if Ed would admit that, but there was some pushback before they actually made the move. And they pulled Jerry in, and it was like, we got to make this work. How are we going to make this work? It's 3 voices. And they gave us a plan, but it really didn't make sense in my head at the time. To Jerry's credit, he came in and added something that Ed and I weren't willing to do.
Well, Jerry's the bad guy.
Exactly. So he lightened the load by being that guy. And he also lightened the load because Jerry's not afraid to make fun of him. He's not afraid to be the butt of the joke.
Right.
And often he'll put himself in as the butt of the joke when nobody else does. So we start building around that, and Ed offers his expertise on what's going on in the city and things like that. And also his experience as a Division III college football player. Don't forget about that. And as you said, what I learned to do is to give my opinion, but for the most part, be the traffic cop to keep the show going. And never is that more relevant than it is now because we're not going to the studio. I'm home, Jerry's home, Ed's home.
So that's a challenge, right? You got three voices in three different locations now,
Yes.
so you kind of don't know who's going to talk first, who's going to expand upon each subject, and so on, right?
And that's where my job is even more challenging because I have to be the traffic cop, not seeing, not being able to look them in the eye, not having enough time to text them what I want, hope that they'll get it and read it before. So I really got to jump in quickly without cutting anybody off, and I'll direct questions even more now. I'll be like, well, Ed, what I'm in, and then I'll start then, or I'll ask a question. I'm like, Jerry, what do you think? So you really have to make it seem natural in a really unnatural situation. It's challenging, but as you said before, and I got a lot of friends who are bartenders and waitresses and things like that who aren't working at all. I'm not gonna complain about those challenges, not even a little bit. Yeah,
But the ratings would suggest that it does work.
it does work. It does. Listen, you can say what you want, and we all have our own opinions about one another. There are times. Look, we're family, so there are times we get on one another's nerves. I'm not gonna lie to you. I know I get under Ed Norris's skin. I know I do. I know who I am. I know there are times where Jerry gets under both of our skin, and I know Jerry and I are like oil and water. We're like that. Jerry and I probably in a normal situation wouldn't be friends.
Right.
We wouldn't be. But we try our best to make it work for 4 hours a day. Sometimes it is not as smooth as you'd like it to be, but I think we do as good a job as possible as we can.
But that's only one job. Let's talk about your dream job. So recently, you, in fact, don't only have a face for radio because now you're on TV as the face of the Orioles.
Right.
Just talk about how that come about and how it is working for the Orioles and the Angelos family because despite what's being thrown around out there, you've told me nothing but great things about the entire experience.
Yeah, I mean, I gave you the call last year before the 2019 season. Like, dude, I got the call. I'm going to be in pre and post game. They gave me 52 games maybe last year working with Rick Dempsey. And, man, it was, John, I don't remember life without the Orioles. Okay?
Well, you get to go to Florida.
Yeah. So now you mean to tell me I get to set it up? And from with millions of viewers, I get to talk about the pregame and then after the game, talk about what just happened. You really giving me that job? You're going to pay me to do it? And so I got a chance to do it last year. I thought it went well. But, when you're a contractor, you don't really have that you're a contractor without a multi-year deal. So I didn't know what was going to happen for 2020. And then I got a call in, I would say January or February, maybe probably January, saying hold tight, it's going to come. We're just working some things out because the upper management was working some new situations out. They said just hold tight. So maybe 2 or 3 weeks later, not only did they tell me I was coming in, they're bringing me back in. They were giving me more games and put it this way.
More money.
They took care of me. If I would have negotiated a deal, I wouldn't have asked for what they gave me. I'll say that after the fact now.
That's great.
They took good care of me. Now, we don't have baseball right now, but it's still, John, I got to pinch myself sometimes, man. Because, I'm going to be doing more than one thing. I did some sideline reporting during spring training. I'm going to be still doing pre and post games. Right now, where the Orioles are, the sky is not just the limit for the players. The sky's the limit for anybody in the organization. If you don't see these days right here in the Orioles organization as the years for opportunity, then you're not watching. We're in a position right now where the opportunities are limitless. And you know me, I'm opportunistic. If you give me an opportunity to do something, I'm going to do my best to knock that out of the ballpark, and I'm not letting it go.
Yeah.
Give it to me, I'm not letting it go. So I'm just trying to position myself and line myself up for whatever needs to be done. Whether sideline reporting, maybe, I love to do play-by-play one day. I don't know if that's an opportunity, but I'd love to. Or if for the next 10 years they tell me to do pre- and post-game, guess what? I'll do pre- and post-game for the next 10 years. It is a great job. I'm a baseball guy, and just to be able to talk baseball and not only talk baseball, but talk about the team that I fell in love with when I was 10 years old.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's that. I don't have to tell you.
Living the dream,
Yeah, man. You know how I am about my Orioles, man.
Hey, so we had Bino in here who you referenced earlier, and one question that he kind of danced around, but I think we can get a better answer out of you is guys like Rudy Gay, guys like Carmelo Anthony, Malcolm Delaney, Melvin Scott, Quinn Cook, Ty Lawson. For such a long time, we had Kevin Durant, a really, really, really strong
Hurting me now.
Maryland men's basketball pipeline, DMV, whatever you want to call it, and those guys weren't going to Maryland. And it was before Bino got there, but to his credit, he didn't want to throw anybody under the bus. Why did none of those guys wear tear-up jerseys?
If I want a middle school kid to come to my school, and I know a lot of high schools are going after, as much as I love my assistant coaches, I got to go see a play.
Mm-hmm.
And there were a lot of guys who weren't seeing Gary. I know that for a fact. That's not speculation. That's not hearsay. That's talking to their coaches. That's talking to the players. They weren't seeing Gary. They were seeing Jim Calhoun. You know what I mean? They were seeing Calipari. They were seeing all these guys come to their gym, but they weren't seeing Gary. I just think Gary didn't want to play the game. And to his credit, when was it Jordan Williams announced that he was leaving early, he said, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. And he got out.
Yeah.
But before then is when Gary stopped wanting to play the game. There's certain things, there are rules to this game. You got to follow those rules. If you don't follow those rules, you're going to have moments like that. You look at Gary's last 5 years, they weren't great. He's a Hall of Famer. He should be a Hall of Famer. But his last 5 years weren't great. They didn't reflect the Hall of Fame coach. And I think there's no coincidence that maybe the work didn't reflect that of the Hall of Fame coach. I just think Gary, once he won that national championship, he said, you know what, I got it. I did it without McDonald's All-Americans because Danny Miller was the only McDonald's All-American on that team who ended up transferring to Notre Dame.
Yes.
So he thought that maybe I can continue to do it without McDonald's All-Americans.
Mm-hmm.
The game changed. I know you hate him, but Coach K redefined himself.
Well, he had to.
Exactly.
Because Calipari was kicking his butt.
Exactly.
And he didn't start getting ahead of Kentucky until all of a sudden he decided he wanted to be a Patriot and coach Team USA and be around these high school kids a lot more than anybody else recruiting them. But that's going to be a whole different podcast for a different day.
But my point is, he redefined himself. He didn't say, I don't want to do it. Because there was
when Greg Paulus is getting dunked on by Danny Green, it's time to go.
It's time to go. Because there was a time where at Duke, the only time you could get your championship ring was after everybody graduated. I guarantee you those rules are relaxed.
Oh, yeah. Well, there aren't many championship rings to go around because as great as you might think he is, he had Zion, R.J. Barrett, Cam Reddish, Trey Jones, and he couldn't even make a Final Four. But there aren't a lot of rings to go around.
The moral of that story is they're one and dones, and 20 years ago he wouldn't have.
No doubt. And he redefined the Duke program.
Yes.
I think that's another reason why I love the Carolina program is Roy does a really good job balancing the two.
Yes.
For every Luke May, he does have a Kobe White.
Mm-hmm. And you have to, that. I don't. And in order to get those guys, those kids, you got to play the game.
Sure.
You've got to woo the AAU coaches and the high school coaches and talk to the parents. You got to do that. I mean, because you have kids now going to 3 high schools in 4 years. Mm-hmm. And you can't say, well, I don't want that kid. Well, fine. Somebody else will get that kid. That kid will score 18 against you and beat you. And I just think Gary just got to the point where he didn't want to. Whether you agree with it or disagree with it is irrelevant. It's the fact. Fact is, he didn't want to play that game anymore, and those kids were going elsewhere instead of coming here.
And, the one thing that Bino did say, and it's true, is every kid is different, and sometimes people look at a school and say, somebody's already there that's playing my position. For example, Emmanuel Quigley probably saw Cowan here and didn't see immediate playing time, so he probably was a little more likely to go to Kentucky, right?
Yep. Even though I'd play Emmanuel Quigley.
Well, he had a really bad freshman year.
He was not good.
Yeah.
And I didn't think he'd be player of the year in the SEC.
Yeah, he really stepped up this year. His free throw shooting's phenomenal.
Big time.
Let's switch gears here to a team that we both love, the Ravens.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody today is talking about AB and the Ravens. If you are front office, if you are John Harbaugh, do you take a low chance risk on Antonio Brown coming to the Ravens next year?
That's 2 answers. You said front office and Coach Harbaugh. So let's start with Coach Harbaugh. No, wouldn't. Because the history in the locker room and his relationship with the coaches are not good. It's not good at all. So if I'm John Harbaugh, I probably would give you a quick and hard no.
You think him and Tomlin talk?
No, I don't. I think he just looks at it from afar. But
I think there's a mutual respect between the two.
I think there's a mutual respect between the two, but I don't think those two are
Right.
exchanging texts. I don't. If I am Eric DaCosta, hell yeah. Yeah, I'm taking him. You know why? Because now we're playing Madden on offense.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have Lamar Jackson, the biggest weapon in the NFL. I have two good running backs who one could beat you to death. The other one Gus Edwards can just hit you and go and outrun you. I have already a wide receiver going to a second year that can take the top off of defense. I have one great tight end and another one that's very good, Nick Boyle. And I throw Antonio Brown in the mix of that. And now he's going to be running the routes that Willie Snead ran last year.
Right.
Yeah, I want that. Now, as a fan and as a guy who covers the team, it's the same answer. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because
it's giving you guys stuff to talk about in the morning, that's for sure.
Right. See, I think this. Reality is a son of a bitch. And the reality is when the Patriots cut him, nobody else was willing to touch him. Mm-hmm. That kind of humbles you.
Well, the Saints, I think, had him for a workout, but that was the extent of it.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And that humbles you. And on top of that, John, is he never had to be Big Brother. He never had to be Big Brother. He comes here, he's got to be Big Brother. And that may give him a different sense of responsibility. And all of that aside, the Ravens went 14-2 last year without him and put 30 points up on people like it was nothing. If he gets out of line, they can cut him and keep it moving. He's not. If they get him and he's good Antonio Brown, they're better. If they cut him because he's bad Antonio Brown, they're still great.
I think the one thing we didn't touch on, I think we touched every part of the debate, is if they do have him in the fold heading into the draft, theoretically your only big holes now are middle linebacker and interior line instead of wide receiver, middle linebacker and interior line. So that gives Eric a little more leeway and chance to be aggressive in the draft, because the common notion is that he's going to move up at one point, whether it's the first round, second round, or third round, we don't know, but he's not bringing 9 or 10 rookies onto this team next year because they're built to win right now.
I agree with you, and you and I may disagree on this. I think the need for wide receiver is greater than a lot of people trying to make it out to be. I think it's a great need for wide receiver. We saw in a lot of games last year the offense was stagnant at times because
a playoff game.
Yeah. And you saw it sometime in the regular season where Lamar later on would make a great play and open things up. I think the Cincinnati game for a while they struggled. Lamar would make a play, but I think you throw another premium receiver in that mix, you got something now.
It'll be interesting to watch.
Yeah.
All right, Rob, thanks for joining us today, man. We've got to give a lot of love once again to our producer,
That's right,
Dimitri. He's literally working around the clock on these things, and he's having a lot of fun editing them, and I hope everybody appreciates the work that he's putting out there for us. This is a lot of fun for us. I hope it's a lot of fun for you, Rob.
It was a blast.
And most importantly, I hope it's a lot of fun for the listeners. It's trying to keep everybody busy during these quarantines. But draft coming up. We'll have a lot to talk about on 105.7 in the mornings. Now that you guys know the man behind the voice, hopefully you have a newfound respect for him. My good friend, Rob Long. Thanks for listening. We'll see you again soon.